one of the joys of an American summer, trekking to and through a national park. As COVID restrictions lift, millions are expected to explore the great outdoors. But now a provocative article examines the deeper history of how these parks came to be and their complicated legacy.
On March 2, 1899, Mount Rainier became the first national park established in Washington state as signed by William McKinley. It was the nation's 5th national park. National parks have become important parts of PNW culture. Many families drive out on the weekends and over the summer to view the impressive scenery. National parks are available for climbing, hiking, backcountry skiing, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and more. While each being 2 hours away from Seattle, the effort to go out there is worth it for the breathtaking views and the impressive conservation efforts by park rangers to keep the park looking beautiful as ever. 3 different national parks reside on Washington land. Starting with Rainier in 1899, Olympic National Park followed years later when it was established June 29, 1938 by Franklin D. Roosevelt as a part of the environmental aspect of the New Deal. North Cascades National Park rounds out the national parks in Washington after being established October 2, 1968, and protecting over 700,000 acres of land. It's not up for debate that Washington's national parks are a sight to be seen, offering breathtaking views and scenery that can't be found anywhere else. However, the dark history of Washington's national parks is a legacy that they struggle to erase. The Duwamish were the first people on Washington land, and they can be dated back almost 10,000 years. Mount Rainier is the ancestral homeland of the Cowlitz, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Puyallup, Sax-Quin-Island, Yakima, and Coast Salish people. North Cascades the Noosac, Upper Skagit, Sauk-Suiattle, Colville, and Yakima. Olympic the Lower Elwha, Clallam, Jamestown Clallam, Port Gamble Clallam, Skykomish, Quinault, Hoh, Quinute, and Maka. Yet today, when you go to one of Washington's national parks, you will not find the Maka tribe, or the Noosac. In fact, you will not find any of them on their ancestral land. If the tribes no longer inhabit this land, where are they, what happened, and how are the national parks involved in this dark history of Native tribes? Most, if not all of the lands in today's national parks were once home to Indigenous people. In many cases, thousands of years' worth of Native American history has been documented at national park sites. Yet, if their history has been documented, where have they gone? Here we can see an old map of Washington state tribes before contact with European settlers. The colored areas are Native tribes. Now look at a map of today. Look for the blue. Those are where the tribes are. And in this one, the tribes are noted in gray. Natives have resided on Washington state land for thousands of years. As the Quinault say, for as long as the ageless memory of the legend recalls, the Quinaults flourished in the territory which originally stretched from their isle-strewn Pacific beaches along the rainforest rivers to the glaciers of Mount Olympus. So what caused this change, and what led us to the map that we have today? European traders had previously made contact with Quinutes in as early as the 1700s, which can be seen from different adventurers over the years making contact with the natives. An example of this is Lewis and Clark, whose exhibitions on United States land led to intrigue over westward migration. Yet, these spurts of European exploration are not what directly caused the removal of the natives. As growing numbers of settlers moved into Washington, and we became a more established territory, conflicts began to arise. These first official contacts between Washington's natives and settlers occurred in 1855, when white settlers wanted more land for the increasing amount of Europeans. It was at this time that the removal of the natives began. Many of this was before Washington was even established as a state. While territory wasn't granted to the United States, and Washington wasn't technically a state, it was viewed as European territory, and the natives were viewed as something to be rid of. The governor of Washington at this time, Isaac Stevens, requested treaties to be signed with the natives. These treaties presented themselves as a compromise, an exchange of the natives' land in return for a sum of money. However, it was not that simple. The Treaty of Point-No-Point and the Quinault Treaty were both signed in 1855. The treaties, however, were both presented in English, a language the natives didn't understand, and the requests were undeniably unreasonable. Article 1 of the Quinault Treaty states, "The said tribes and bands hereby cede, relinquish, and convey to the United States all their right, title, and interest in and to the lands and country occupied by them." However, this treaty was not just asking for the land. It was asking for them to turn over their tribe to the property of the United States. Article 8 requires the natives to acknowledge their dependence on the government of the United States, in addition to requiring niceness from the natives, stating that the said tribes and bands promise to be friendly with all citizens thereof and pledge themselves to commit no deprivations on the property of such citizens. Article 9 goes further to ban the use of spirits, stating, the above tribes and bands are desirous to exclude from their reservations the use of ardent spirits. Article 12 bans the natives from trading west of Vancouver. Not just this, but the sum of money would only be given under specific conditions. In the treaty, it was agreed that the sum of $25,000 would be paid to the natives in exchange for their land. However, the treaty states that it would only be given in the following manner. For the first year of the ratification hereof, $2,500 would be given. For the next 2 years, $2,000 would be given each year. For the next 3 years, $1,600 would be given each year. For the next 4 years, $1,300 would be given each year. For the next 5 years, $1,000 would be given each year. And for the next 5 years, $700 would be given each year. Not only are these requests absolutely unreasonable and ask for complete submission from the natives had no idea what they were signing into due to the language barrier. Now imagine this. You're given a treaty in a different language by a man you just met who wants to take your land and move you 200 miles south with unreasonable conditions. Would you take it? The answer is probably not. So why is Olympic National Park as we know it today? The answer comes in a choice, or the fact that there was no choice given. In the negotiation of point-no-point treating, Skycomish leader Ho Ho Tan expressed the following. I wish to speak my mind as to selling the land. Great chief, what shall we eat if we do so? Our only food is berries, deer, and salmon. Where then shall we find these? I don't want to sign away my right to the land. Take half of it and let us keep the rest. I am afraid that I shall become destitute and perish for want of food. I don't like the place you have chosen for us to live on. I am not ready to sign the paper. So given this information, an unreasonable treaty, and a tribe who does not wish to give up their land, what happened? The answer is simple. It was provided as an offer, but there was no choice. The treaty did not even offer the opportunity to stay on the lands, rather immediately drove the Native Americans out with threats of violence and use of armed forces. If disagreement struck in relation to these treaties, there were many cases where natives were driven off national park land through use of United States cavalry. Skycomish leader stated upon leaving the land that if he had stayed, he is afraid he shall die, and upon leaving due to revocation of his food and the land of their culture, he is afraid he shall die. These treaties for national park land were not offers, they were manipulations. They were contracts of death. Death upon leaving or death upon staying. The lands signed off in these treaties later became what we know today as Washington's national parks. Most, if not all of the lands in today's national parks were once home to indigenous peoples. In many cases, thousands of years' worth of Native American history has been documented at national park sites. That long history came to an abrupt end when tribes were forcibly removed from their homelands. The National Park Service continues to struggle with this dark legacy. Today, tribes around Washington have joined the Land Back movement in order to reclaim the national park land that was once taken from them.
We come from fighters. The fighters fought for the treaty right, fought for the fishing right, and will continue to fight for the fish here in this river as Nisqually, but also to fight for that, not land acknowledgement, but land back.